Chapter 15. Before Rosner knows it, the tournament is upon him. He has won his first handful of matches, though the last one is close. It takes so long, Arendt calls for them to stop. The blacksmith then asks each town present to have someone step forward and cast a vote into a helmet. Rosner receives 5 out of the 9 possible votes. After this is declared, Rosner walks off to enjoy his bye round. He steers away from the crowd as the match after him ends within mere seconds. One of the contestants deflects a blow and, in return, swings his axe at the opponent's neck, staying at about half an inch from the target. Beyond the crowd, Rosner finds a table with food for the contestants sprawled across it. Amongst the options of bread, cheese, dried meat, and an assortment of fruits, he grabs a chunk of bread and a couple slices of meat before sitting down. Above him, the life-giver sits at her throne, but the breeze blowing keeps her radiance at bay. Suddenly, Rosner feels a hand on his shoulder. He does not look up. He knows the grip. "Your next one will be challenging," Arendt warns. Rosner tears a piece of meat with his teeth. "Who is it?" "A girl nicknamed the Bone Crusher." Rosner shrugs. "So she likes the hammer." Arendt releases his grip on Rosner and steps in front of him. "Do not underestimate your opponent. I taught you better. Yes, she wields a war hammer, but she also has the strength to back it up. If you wish to win your next match, you will have to calculate your moves carefully." In that moment, Rosner matches Arendt's gaze. It is clear-cut and serious, as usual. The stern tone in his voice, however, has Rosner thinking about his words. In the end, he nods. "I will not let her overcome me." The blacksmith looks at him for a second longer before saying, "Let us hope not." Then he drifts back into the crowd. Rosner leans back against the table and stares after Arndt. It does not occur to him that he is acting careless until after the man says he is underestimating this girl. He supposes it is because his mind has not been completely in it. For the past 3 days, he has been trying to decipher Strongheart's words. If this is the way to help Cadoric, he will take it. But he has no clue as to where to start. Nothing. When he asked about the Death King to some people in the village, most of them had no clue what he was talking about, and walked away hastily after he asked. A few older folks said he spoke of ancient legends no one talks about anymore. These people, unlike those who were clueless, asked where Rosner heard about the Death King. The best he can come up with is that he found it in an old-looking storybook. Most just said it must have been a very old storybook. A couple wanted to see it. One, however, Invenik Demea, gave him a hard look. "Is that what you have been telling everyone?" she asked, her voice rubbery with age, like the countless wrinkles on her face. She was a short woman with a hunched back, but Rosner remembers feeling small next to her. Maybe it was her eyes, small, beady, and dark, and glazed over. Her thin, black hair with strands of bright white fell past her waist. Most bizarre was no one paid them any sort of attention, like it was normal for a young man to be talking with a bone-chilling looking woman. "You cannot fool me," she told him, pointing a sharp-nailed finger at him. She cackled softly. "I know better." He remembers unease and excitement building within him all at once. "So, you can tell me a little more about him?" Maybe he sounded more eager than he meant to, but after so many dead ends, relief consumed him. The woman only cackled more. "Ah, my child, I am afraid not. Not because I do not want to, but because... Pah! Does not matter. You will find what you seek soon enough. At this, Rosner looked at her baffled. What I seek is more knowledge about the Oh, stop with the lying, child. To you, that is just the icing on the cake. You want to know about the item he sent you after. Rosner shook his head at this. But I never told... How do you... Who are you? After his mind got jammed with thoughts, one finally came out. Her body shook with another laugh. Is it not infuriating when people do not answer that question? He started to feel like she was mocking him. This conversation was really entertaining her. But before he could say another word, she continued in a harsh tone, so low he had to bend forward. I will tell you, though, you should stop asking about things like these in such open quantities. You will only be rewarded with stalkers, like the one you now have. Unable to help himself, Rosner shot straight up. If it was not for the woman pulling him back down with a surprising strength, he would have looked around. By the mother, do not be an idiot, she hissed. Do you have any common sense in that head of yours? She released him along with her harsh tone. It is in your best interest that you trust me. Things will not work as planned if you do not. Rosner stood straight again and eyed the woman cautiously. What plan? She just looked up at him and smiled. Some of her teeth were at odd angles. She patted his chest. Trust, my child. Then she walked off, casually, like they had just finished a mutual conversation. Yet Rosner wanted to learn more, desperately. However, before he could go after her, his mother appeared next to him, her voice flat. You are lucky I brought both you and Astra this trip. At least I can trust one person to stand next to the cot. It has not helped his mood. He walked back to the cart with her, wordlessly. It was not until they returned to Tickthrum that he spotted who the woman was talking about. The fact that she was right sent a tinge of unease through his veins. While he was walking in the market in Tickthrum, he started getting the feeling someone was watching him. At first, he ignored it, but after spotting the same black cloak in the corner of his eye, matching his movement step for step, he knew something was up. At one stall, he stopped abruptly and then turned around, trying to make it seem like he was casually walking up and down the strip, only it did not go as planned. Rosner must have been followed for longer than he realized, because as soon as he turned around, something that he had never done since he just walks through every now and then without giving the merchants a second thought, the cloaked figure raced towards the docks. Rosner chased after him, but the distance was too great, and the figure was much faster. So, from afar, Rosner watched as the cloaked figure raced down a pier and jumped onto a merchant ship that had already set sail. As far as he could tell, no one else had been trying to follow his movements. After an hour of waiting, he finally re-enters the training yard, which has been converted into the area where the tournament is taking place. He heaves his wooden shield higher onto his arm and tightens his grip on the dulled longsword. Bonecrusher eyes him from the center, a warhammer with two large, blunt ends clutched in one hand, a shield like his in the other. Around both of them, the crowd cheers and calls out curses depending on who they root for. As Rosner closes to the center, Arendt approaches from the side and meets them there. Arendt looks at both of them. Remember, we are not here to kill each other. You go until the other surrenders or cannot continue. Got it. Rosner nods, followed by Bonecrusher. Good. You begin at the bell. Rosner lets himself fall into a comfortable stance as Arndt walks towards the smithy. He knows it will only take the blacksmith a few seconds to reach the bell he placed near the door, so Rosner takes the moments in between to look over his opponent. Bone Crusher, like him, wears light leather armor. She also stands about his height, which is surprising since he is over 6 feet tall. Her caramel skin tells him she is from somewhere near the desert. Her black hair is cut short, only a few inches in length. To tell the truth, he finds her quite attractive. But it does not matter now. The crowd falls quiet, which means a bell behind him rings out clearly across the yard, only to be immediately drowned out by the crowd starting back up. Instead of striking like Rosner expects, Bone Crusher circles him. To maintain distance and control, he follows suit. He keeps his shield tucked against his body, his sword in a firm grip, but not too tight. Bone Crusher, he notes, keeps her shield hanging loosely at her side, but her warhammer is held ready. Her foot pattern changes, faintly. She takes a side swing at his head. Rosner squats and brings the shield up so that the hammer glides over it. In the same motion, he slices at her abdomen. He lets her retreat a step and glance down at the strike. A long cut stretches across the leather armor. At least one would have if the blade was sharp. She looks out at him and glares. Instead of waiting for her to strike, Rosner takes his chance. She blocks, sending them into a series of exchanges. Eventually, Rosner finds himself with his back against the fence. In the corner of his eye, he sees the hammer come from his left. He ducks out of the way and slides around Bone Crusher as she chips off a piece of the fence, sending splinters into the crowd. Before she can recover, Rosner throws the shield at her with his entire body behind it. She manages to meet his with hers, but Rosner has more weight on her. As he hits her and pins her between him and the fence, he lifts his shield up towards her face in the same movement. The response he receives is a low crunch, mixed with a pained yell. Then he retreats a few steps to gauge the scene. Through a newly bloodied face, Bone Crusher glares at him with fierce brown eyes. She throws her shield to the side and clutches her hammer with both hands. Then she lets out a war cry and charges. Rosner leans back as an upward strike threatens to send his head airborne. The wind from the strike breathes up his face as the hammer comes within an inch of him. Before he can even think to strike, a series of 3 more attacks comes his way. He evades each. The last strike comes from above. Rosner sidesteps. The same second it buries itself into the ground, he slams his shield into the handle, catching Bone Crusher's hand on the edge of it. The warhammer flies out of her grasp, leaving her defenseless. Rosner raises his sword to her throat and lets a small smile play on his lips. That is when he sees a Mirayan soldier in his heavy leather armor shove his way to the edge of the fence in front of him. The soldier glares in his direction. It is not until he points that Rosner realizes the man is looking behind him. "You there! Do not move!" Confused, Rosner turns around and finds a familiar hair color whip around someone before disappearing into the crowd. While he is caught wondering why his sister is running from a soldier of the 7th Army, he feels something grab his shoulder. He turns around and is greeted with a fist to the jaw. Rosner wakes up to someone viciously shaking him. Around him, blurry shapes slowly form into people running around him. Arndt takes form in front of him. "Blast it, kid! Wake up!" Before he can respond, Arndt yanks Rosner to his feet and rushes him to the smithy. Around them, people run back and forth, yelling and screaming. Halfway there, they step past a man lying on the ground, bloodied and still. Rosner turns to Arndt. "What is going on?" Arndt lets out a howl of laughter. "What is going on? It is a revolt. The surrounding townsmen, as well as our own, want to push Moglov's influence out, and we are going to lend our aid. Rosner is shoved inside, followed by Arndt closing the door behind him. Grab a sword from the rack. Rosner stops in his tracks, trying to comprehend everything that is happening. How long was I out? Only 2 minutes or so, Arndt offers, although Rosner knows he did not really hear the question. He points towards the swords. Now, grab a weapon. You might want a shield as well. The front door bursts open with the soldier on the doorstep, his sword drawn. His eyes immediately fall on the two of them. Do not move! Arndt grabs a sword from the wall. I suggest you leave, my friend. As Rosner expects, the soldier ignores Arndt's warnings and rushes forward, his sword raised. Arndt meets the soldier's blade mid-air before bringing his foot up to the man's chest, sending him to the floor. The strike clearly knocks the wind out of him, and the ground doubly so. The second the soldier hits the dirt, Arndt slices his throat in one smooth motion. He barely pauses before he makes his way to the door. There, he turns back to Rosner, who stares after him in shock. Grab a sword! Outside is chaos. Many soldiers lay still in the streets, while twice as many random villagers and townspeople lay next to them. At least a dozen groups are engaged in some sort of combat around him. The road at their feet is splattered with blood. Behind him, someone yells out. Rosner turns as a soldier swings at him. He raises his own sword and deflects the blow. Then he brings the weapon across the soldier's neck. Blood sprays from his throat as he crumbles to the ground. As he falls, Rosner spots many of the spectators from earlier now pulling weapons out of hay bales from the backs of wagons. Large ceramic pots reveal numerous weapons as well as their lids are removed and their contacts dug out. He watches as one man opens one of these pots and receives a blade across the leg, gifted from a soldier who then receives a gift from the man in return. A giant ceramic pot to the head, as the man's leg buckles beneath him. Another soldier charges Rosner from the side. He sidesteps, deflects the blow, and strikes. The soldier parries and lashes out again, catching Rosner in the arm. Still bruised from his fight with Bone Crusher, searing pain explodes across the gash. He feels blood drip down his arm and soak into his shirt. He prepares himself for another attack when a hammer comes out from behind the soldier and digs at an upward slant into his ribs. He falls to the ground and does not move. Above him, Bone Crusher peers at Rosner with a wild grin. Come on, hot shot, Bone Crusher says. Despite everything about her, she has a voice he equates to a more petite figure, although he would never say this. Let us drive the 7th Army out of here. She does not wait for him. Instead, she disappears back into the crowd, smashing people as she goes. But Rosner's mind is not on the fight. He sprints towards the village, deflecting and dealing blows along the way. Before long, his body is patterned with random cuts of different lengths and depths. None of them matter, though. He needs to find his mother and sister. He feels like ages until he reaches the path that leads to his family house. When he does, he allows himself to breathe a slight sigh of relief. The fighting has restricted itself to the main road. With an angry choir of shouts of pain and the ringing of steel behind him, Rosner makes his way against the tree line to avoid the sight of those in the fight. Halfway there, the wind switches directions and heads out to the sea. What rides with it stops Rosner in his tracks. Thick smoke curls into his nostrils, filling him with dread. Then he breaks into a sprint. If not for the sword, when he rounds the corner he would have fallen to his knees. Before him, his home is engulfed in a raging fire, black smoke rising into the sky like a pillar of death. A lighter smoke fills the plain, burning Rosner's throat. The faint sound of clashing metal rings out beyond the trees. After sitting there watching the flames grow, a different noise, barely audible, enters his ears. Without thinking, he runs to the stables, which so far has avoided the flames. Inside, he finds Ostra and Strongheart, but no wagon. Both the mares are gone. Despite this, he still asks, "Where's Mom?" Ostra walks over to him, saying, "She is fine, I hope. She left this morning for Venek de Mai. Something about a last-minute urgent delivery." She goes to put a hand on his shoulder, but he tosses it aside. Instead of feeling reassured, like he feels he should, a new anger erupts in him. "What were you doing today?" Acid drips from his words. "Why was that soldier chasing you? Because of you? Because of me? What?" She spits back, all the gentleness now out of her voice. "If you are about to accuse me of starting this fight, you are insane. People were obviously prepared for this. If not, you are still upset about getting knocked in the jaw. You can blame yourself. The match was never officially over until then." Rosner glares at his sister. He opens his mouth to argue, but it just hangs there. What can he argue? He wants to blame her because she was there. He also would have won had it not been for her small distraction. "Is the loss of a fight worth an argument?" For a moment, Rosner takes this as his own thought, but the snake-like accent tells him otherwise. He closes his mouth and looks past his sister at Strongheart. The dragon's expression remains neutral, but Rosner spots a faint shimmer in her slitted eyes. He knows the dragon is right, but that does not mean he wants her to be. Without taking his eyes off Strongheart, he announces in an even tone, "We should get the horses out of here." Asra nods without a word, though Rosner can tell by the tension of her movement she still has thoughts about their argument. She throws open the latch to both the stallions and lets them burst past her. Rosner throws open the stable doors just before the horses reach him. After watching them disappear into the wood, he turns back to his sister. Despite being day, the fire casts a deep red glow on her face. He takes a deep breath before speaking in an attempt to calm himself. What happened here?" Rosner sees his sister stiffen. It takes her a few moments to respond. A few soldiers followed me back here. I killed one of them when he came into the house. The others followed a minute later, I guess. I do not know. I left through the window after I killed him. I guess they torched it in response to his death. That is when Strongheart came from the stables. They tried to run, but none of them made it. We have been here since, hoping you were safe." Asra turns around sharply and brings an arm across her face. All the anger Rosner has drains away. He walks over to his sister and wraps his arms around her. Here, he listens to her trying to stifle her tears. "I am sorry," he whispers in her hair. "Guess what, though? I am safe. You are safe, and so is Mom and Kdorik." She shakes her head violently. "No." He feels her start to turn, so he loosens his grip around her. Astra stares at him, her brown eyes shining with tears. "You do not know that. None of us do. You said it yourself. Palfrey. As far as we know, Palfrey is still doing what he promised. The guy who told me otherwise, Death King of the Seven Realms and whatnot, I do not know him, despite the small lecture I received from Strongheart." Rosner watches fresh tears form in the corners of his sister's eyes. She opens her mouth to say something, but he does not let her. "I will still take his warning into consideration, and I will look into this. Tear. But I would like to believe Kdorik is still safe." Asra falls into his arms and starts shaking again. Through muffled breaths, she says, I miss him so much. Rosner kisses the top of her head. I know. So do I. A sort of silence envelops them. Asra's muffled crying is faint against the roar of the fire so close to them. Then the sound of steel on steel enters his thoughts like a lost memory. He feels himself cringe. They cannot avoid what is going on out there forever. The only problem is, one of them has a dragon. Asra, he says, pulling away from her, you need to go. She nods slowly. You're right. No. Obviously, she did not hear him. You need to go. I'm staying. At this, she pushes away from him. No, absolutely not. Why would you say that? I am not the one with the dragon. Besides, I have to... What does he have to do? In his moment of hesitation, Asra gives him another shove. Fine. Do not tell me why I must leave you behind. It is not like I might have already lost one brother. Her voice drips with sarcasm. Before he can respond, Asra shoves past him and walks out the stables. A moment later, Strongheart follows. At the door, she pauses, her body taking up a large portion of the entrance. Be safe, for her sake. Then the dragon disappears after her rider. A few minutes go by before he gathers the courage to walk back outside. The roar of the fire still sings in his ear, but there is an absence of something. Battle. Everything's gone quiet. He wraps his fingers around the hilt on his hip and makes his way forward. He starts down the path between the forest and the hill, blending into the shadows of the trees like he did on his way over here earlier. As he nears the main road, he hears rough voices giving out stern orders, though he cannot completely understand what is being said. A group of soldiers appear, walking in a file down the main road. Rosner slips further into the shadows, hoping none of them see him. Once they pass, he takes a step forward into a sharp metal object pressing against his neck. A half second later, Rosner feels the person wielding the dagger breathe down his neck. When the man speaks into his ear, a shiver runs down Rosner's spine. Move, and I will kill you. The man chuckles. I warned you what would happen if we met again, did I not? Rosner feels a hand press hard against his back, propelling him forward and back onto the path. Once through the brush, he is directed towards the main road. The one holding him, the same one who threatened him in the wood 3 years ago, calls out, Captain, I found a hider. As Rosner and his captor emerge from the path to the road, he spots Arndt, Bone Crusher, and a few others he recognizes from the tournament. All of them have their hands bound, sitting with their backs against the tree line. A large man in plate armor walks over to them. It is not until he is nearly on top of him that Rosner recognizes him as the captain who threatened him and his siblings after dealing with the drunk soldier. And by the look of disgust on his face, Rosner figures he recognizes him too. Rosner feels the knife leave his throat as the captain's arm comes up. Before he can blink, he feels a shearing pain across his right cheek and the bite of the dagger back against his throat. I never forget a face, he tells Rosner. He turns to the group against the woodline, then the soldiers in front of him. Kill them. The sound of swords unsheathing is drowned by an all too familiar voice. Wait! The captain snaps his attention to Arndt, but casually walks over to him. Rosner sees a small smile start to play on the captain's lips before his back is completely towards him. Do you not wish to die? I was told you fought my soldiers well. Would you rather take him? Rosner can no longer see Arndt, but the captain looks back at him when Arndt says this. He glares at Rosner for a moment before turning back. Why? Arndt chuckles. Because he planned this whole thing. Rosner tries to hold back a shiver. Did Arndt really say that? The captain, however, just shrugs. It makes little difference to me who started this disturbance. As far as I am concerned, you all should die by simply being an accomplice to this fool. Arndt's tone does not change. I believe Moglov would disagree. It seems the blacksmith now has the man's attention, although Rosner cannot see that being entirely good. And why would that be? You need this village. You kill us, you lose a rest stop between routes to and from the capital. No tavern to house your men, no women to entertain them, no people to take care of the crops neighboring villages need to survive. Now you are affecting other people. Very soon after, our populations will start to dwindle, and those you think will be able to bring here to run the place will be gone. Once that happens, enough! The captain slices a hand through the air. Say one more word, and I will kill the lot of you. Otherwise, if this happens again, I will not be so forgiving. He whips around and stalks over to Rosner, grabs him by the chin, and yanks him close. I can see a fighter in your eyes. You might be worth something to me after all. He looks up at the man holding Rosner and inclines his head towards the ship. Take him. The daggers dropped from his throat and promptly set at his back. He's propelled forward without grace or mercy. For much of the walk, he stumbles forward. When they finally make it on deck, Rosner is immediately directed to a hatch in the floor. The last thing he sees before going in is the stone watchtower overseeing the sea.